to see actually some cool modern day ones as well. So, if I can have your attention, I'm going to bring my first model up on stage. Picture the lights going down. How's that?
Wow, it's dim in here. Fashion. Fingering. Hey, Haley.
This costume dates from between 600 and 900 AD. This is a full high-end princess court gown, complete with 12 separate layers. The colors were all significant because they were actually telling both her rank, her age, whether she was married or not, and whether she'd fallen in or out of favor with the court. The fact that she's dressed in primarily blues and dark colors underneath means that she's unmarried, and the orange underneath as well means that she was officially in the court at that time. The red outermost layer means that she's a favorite of the empress. So this was probably one of the people that was the hardest to ever see. You never ever saw her face. And all of this beautiful hair. I wish I could lay claim to, but that was absolutely true and accurate, that they had hair that generally trailed on the floor. So the object of beauty was first, bury the woman under the clothes, and second, have this amazing luxurious shine of hair underneath all of these layers. Thank you very much. The Japanese are amazing because they invented the rectangle, and then they stuck with it forever and ever and made 1,000 iterations of the rectangle. Here you have what everybody else was wearing when that lovely court gown was in use. This is your standard jinbei. It's composed of about 4 or 5 pieces of cloth, and they're just very loosely woven here at the sides. You see that in Inuyasha when they've got the lacing up the sides of his kimono. Of course, he's got a half temple robes on. Who knows why? You see the shoes there in bleach, but they always wear them with tabi, which is ridiculous because those were the shoes that gave them traction in rice paddies. So this was the way that they stayed stable and upright while picking rice underneath the layers of muck and water. Thank you very much. This is your standard samurai robes. They really haven't changed much in the last 500 years. This is composed of a beautiful kimono, tabi, shoes. Men get to wear this lovely low hip belts, but the women, of course, had these very, very huge, complicated knots. I will show you an example of a beautiful woman, and this is the hat. It's actually called a kasa, which means umbrella, because it was an umbrella hat. And why we're in green, I have no idea. But
now you know.
Anyway, so he would have been wearing this while traveling, particularly the black socks called tabi, because they didn't show the mud when he was walking. You ready? You first. So I'll go one first and then yours. Yours is off. One of the most interesting and strange tricks of the Japanese is that all of the men wore plain clothes and all of the women wore these beautifully colored kimono which were painted. This had to do with sumptuary laws, which meant that only the very wealthiest and stage actors got to wear colors when they were men. But the women always got to wear these beautiful, beautiful hand-painted kimono which came out on between 10 to 20-yard bolts that were all hand-painted, hand-resisted, and then bathed in local cold water springs to get the colors to resist long enough to stay. This is an example of the very, very faded colors that existed before about 1860 when Westerners came and they changed all of the chemicals that were used in the making of kimono. This obi that she's wearing actually has real silver threads in it. This is an antique, probably from around 1915. So this obi is actually fairly current. Turn, please. She would have worn a very loose knot either in front or in back to show that she was a married woman and she didn't have to do all of the crazy fluffiness that the very young have to do. Thank you very much, both of you. First, Daniel, and then you first. Here I have the moral equivalent of a daimyo. Along with the samurai you saw earlier, he would have disappeared in 1867 when their entire class was disbanded, along with the revolution which changed all of the clothes and everything that they wore. This piece was actually lined with rice paper and starched with rice starch because that was the only thing that they had. We used flour starches and so on in Western times, but this is what they used here. All of these hand carvings were all done locally. This is actually a little pouch that you can carry things in. He would have been allowed to wear this sword, but in 1867, all of this would have been gone. Everything in this ensemble would have disappeared entirely from the streets. They were actually outlawed, and he could have lost his life for carrying that sword. But he has had his top knot cut, which puts him at about 1865. Thank you very much. This is the difference between the wealth and the non-wealth of the 1860s, 1880s. This is an example of the most complicated costume you will probably ever see. This is what is called a taiyu. They were entertainers, but also they were prostitutes. They serviced only the highest levels of society. They had their own language, their own walking style, their own dances and music. And they literally went by family clan after they'd had the children in huge parades to their assignments. All of the hairpins are significant because each of her paramours would have given her them, and she would display them to show just what rank she had. This is a very high level. They were called oiran when they were only serving the aristocracy. As a taiyu, she was the highest, most professional, most skilled, kind of like a cross between Madonna and a princess, where it's almost that layer of no one will see her except everyone can see her, they just can't touch. So she is the paragon of beauty for the time period. If I can have you turn, please. Turn around. Yes, right. On her neck, you see the 3 prongs. This was the sex symbol in Japan. This was the sign of ultimate beauty, to have that perfectly arranged neck. And then all of these layers showing off her wealth. 1, 2, 3 separate, each one painted, each one embroidered, each one lined and padded to show off all of her wealth. All of these are symbolic of both wealth and prosperity, prosperity and luck, as well as good fortune for her and for all of her clients. All of these symbols are important. She was going out, if you looked at her obi in front, during the fall and winter, because she had the pine pattern. Does everybody want to see the front of her again, or do we want to? Yes? No? Yeah. We'll go on? Yes. Okay. Yes, the shoes are accurate. She would have actually been wearing something that put her probably 6 to 8 inches above all of her clients, as well as all of her handlers. And yes, she would have had her hand on a person of great authority at all times. Talk about sex and symbol. I love it. There are people that are descendants of the original taiyu that still practice this walk. They no longer, of course, do servicing of their clients because that has been outlawed now for many, many decades. But all of the languages are slowly dying out that they spoke. So we're trying to preserve them in a little tiny fragment still as artists because that's what they were. this time, along with all of the reforms, a lot of the officials started to change how people wore things and who got to wear them. So those hakama that you saw my daimyo wearing, that regional warlord, suddenly were put on little schoolgirls who were going to all these Catholic schools and learning how to speak new languages because all of a sudden the West was popular. It was the young thing to do. Sounds kind of funny, but it does happen. That's what Japan did after World War II as well. All of those businesses. So here she is wearing probably a kimono that has gotten passed down 20, 30 times. But the hakama, she would have never ever worn these before that original time period. So between 1860 and 1880, she would have suddenly been wearing her father's and grandfather's clothes. Thank you very much. The last echo of that beautiful white face paint and those wonderful wigs is now seen only in Maiko and geisha. They're the only people other than, of course, actors that get to wear it. So this would have been a regular geisha in modern wear with the low collar and the white face paint as you've seen. But again, with all of the different rules that came out, she was no longer able to wear these crazy elaborate robes and all of these hair picks, but she had to stay extremely modest. So you notice that the wig has almost nothing in it, and it's just got very small touches of color. And that was the most she could show. But of course then the quality of the clothes that she wore went up because the craftsmanship was finer. So it was all in the subtlest of details where you got to see her wealth.